Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
And with that, welcome to Purple Access. It is Judd. It is Ross producing as always, and Chip Scoggins joins us from Target Field, where he is for some reason watching Game 3 of the Twins and Yankee series. You must have a strong desire before the Wolves game to prepare for bad things, Chipper. So
yeah, I figured I'd get here early for the Wolves game, and the Yankees lead off with a home run. So
yeah, it's not going well. All right, let's get to it now. Vikings-wise, Chip, we knew the Vikings opponents, as always, for several months.
Yep.
We now know the schedule. We now know that there's only 2 primetime games. I would like your initial thoughts on what you saw, which, just for some context, if people haven't seen it, I'm guessing most people have by the time we get to Saturday, at Giants versus 49ers versus Texans, at Packers versus the Jets in London, a bye week, and then just to take you through week 8, because the bye's in week 6, home to the Lions on week 7, and then a quick turnaround at the Rams in week 8 on a Thursday night. Your thoughts?
Very difficult early. You face 3 playoff teams in playoff teams from a year ago in weeks 2, 3, and 4. It's unusual that I can't remember. And maybe there is. I just forgotten it, but a schedule where there's 3 straight home games and 3 straight road games, which is odd.
Ridiculously odd.
Yeah, I don't quite understand the rationale for that, but so there'll be stretches where they're gone. I mean, and you're giving up a home game to go to London. So the stretch where they have 3 straight home games, I feel like they're going to be gone forever. And then, it's nice to finish up the season with 3 straight home games. But I think that start is interesting because you start on the road against the Giants, and who knows. That's always tough. You're on the road, right? But the Giants are not a good team. But then 49ers, Texans, at Packers. That is a difficult stretch. You don't know who's going to be the Vikings quarterback during that. I'm guessing we're not going to see JJ from the beginning. It'll be Sam Darnold. Now, does that change throughout the year? We'll see. But that'll be a big test for the rebuilt defense. It'll be a big test for the new quarterback.
Yep. And
so I think you start there and see how they come out of those first 4 games and kind of where they're at.
And I do think that to go through week 8, so again, week 6 is the bye, Lions at home in week 7, and then a Thursday nighter at the Rams. So seven games in the first 8 weeks, very few of which I would consider to be anything close to being easy. But let me submit this to you, because there's a lot of ways to look at this and say, boy, that's a rough start. Is this the perfect schedule for making it, if this is the right terminology, J.J. McCarthy proof, as far as I don't think there's a temptation to play him. I mean, there's no way I'm going to throw him to the 49ers, the Texans, and the Packers. And like Chipper, through those first 8 weeks, I don't want him playing against the Lions in 4 days after that, playing against the Rams.
No.
I feel like this is the ideal throw Sam Darnold to the Wolves schedule while you work with McCarthy.
Yeah, and everything we've heard from both Kwesi and O'Connell has talked about patience and not only surrounding a guy with a good foundation, but also not forcing him in there to try to be a hero too soon and worrying about his development. So I think this is a long play. This is not and it's also not a team where you have to force a guy in there, right? I mean, you have you have the infrastructure. This is why you brought Darnold in.
Yep.
And the schedule, I agree with you, sets up in a way that you say, you know what, this is not a good spot to put a rookie in because of the caliber of people, how it stacks up with a Thursday night game, a London game, 3 straight playoff teams right off the bat. So I don't know that O'Connell was ever going to feel like pressured or anything like that to get JJ, no matter what happens with Darnold.
Right.
I think you look at this schedule and they say, okay, this is going to be Sam Darnold's team here for a while, and then we'll just slowly bring JJ along. And, at some point in the season, if it becomes a starter, great, but I don't think it's going to be before the second half.
Mm-hmm. Assuming health, Chip and Judd, and assuming the teams that the Vikings play will stay healthy, who knows? We'll see when we get there. The schedule does, obviously, as you guys both talked about, a little daunting early, and I'll echo what Judd said. This is literally, again, assuming health, I think the best schedule the Minnesota Vikings could have hoped for, knowing their opponents, because you can throw Sam Darnold to the Wolves, as you said, Chip. And if it goes poorly, okay, maybe there's a discussion midseason about going to J.J. McCarthy. If it goes okay, maybe the Vikings start off, they're around 4-4. Well, guess what? Then the schedule opens up and maybe you're in the playoff mix with Sam Darnold. I just don't think the Vikings could have picked a better schedule setup for themselves. Again, assuming teams stay healthy and we think we know what we know about the rest of the teams on their schedule. To me, it's perfect. And if J.J. McCarthy plays this year, I think it's better that it be later than early. So I think this is a great setup for the Vikings.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if it's great. It's great setup in terms of their plan and bringing along the quarterback. It's a tough schedule early on. I mean, this is,
Oh, yeah.
And the other thing that jumps out to me, Judd, and we saw last year was the test case around, not just for the Vikings, but for the NFL, how many quarterbacks got hurt. But when you look at assuming health, which you can't do after last year, but there is a lot of good quarterbacks on this schedule.
Yes. Early, there's a lot. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I mean, you look at it, Giants, no, but 49ers, Brock Purdy, but that's a great team. And then Stroud, who's next? Packers.
Jordan
Obviously
Love,
there. Jordan
Rodgers,
Love, Rodgers,
Stafford.
Stafford, Anthony Richardson.
Yep.
So, there's but you could probably say that most years, but last year with all the injuries, it felt like they, or in years past, they've had some backups that, you kind of had the favorable timing. So, but it's a unique schedule though, right? I mean, not only do you have the London game again, but the 3 straight road games. I mean, I don't know.
And followed by 3 straight home games, which I do not understand. How did the league, to me, I've never seen that before here.
I haven't either. I can't remember 3 of, either road or home.
I don't like 3 anywhere consecutively.
No. Well, it's what, it's one of the things, would you ask a coach and players, you want to have 3 straight road games? Well, no, but would you like to have 3 straight home games? Yeah. I mean, so it's the trade-off. I get it, but I can't remember seeing that, and I don't know why that is.
If I'm O'Connell, though, I don't want 3 straight of anything, including home.
No.
I want to get on the road. I don't want my team getting comfortable. And the schedule is so short. Like we've seen years, Chipper, ordinarily, you don't have 3 straight of anything.
No.
Which I'm fine with.
Yes, I don't know. And do we have times on these yet?
Yes. 12,
so I heard a bunch of noons, right?
12 noon starts. The London start, which is 8:30 in the morning on October 6th. 2 primetime games, and then a 3 p.m. game.
3:30 one.
And then the Detroit game in week 18 is a TBD on day and time.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like we had a lot of night games last year.
5.
Yeah, so maybe this is... I don't know if that's. You think the networks would want Jefferson in prime time, but I don't know.
It's Darnold. It's a Darnold thing, and what's intriguing is like when you look at this, I really thought that they would tuck that Falcons game on like a Thursday night or a Monday.
Yeah,
night.
Is that a new one?
That's a noon start here in December, and the Sunday and Monday games that week are really strong. So there's not a lot of flexibility to it's a bad game. So that the Cousins one really surprised me.
Yeah, I mean that seemed like a natural one you'd put in prime time with, because so much of that is about storylines and not only marquee talent or the individual stars, but also the storylines, and that's a great one. But it's interesting that's a noon game. But so hey. That many noon games, you're not going to hear a complaint from me.
Oh, the writers will love it. The deadlines.
Give me 17 noon
Your stories will
games,
get in the paper for once.
and
They'll be
an
in the actual
8:30.
print.
That's right. And an 8:30 a.m. Right, the London games at 8:30.
8:30 in the morning.
So give me that one too. So.
Mm-hmm.
On the degree of difficulty of the schedule, gentlemen, I know I'm going to get a little bit of pushback here, and I maybe not necessarily from you guys, but I know the Before I Die Nation might take umbrage to this next comment. I welcome the tougher schedule. I think having a tough schedule is great, especially in this year. You can make the case to me. Honestly, I don't really care about results this upcoming season. I don't. There are certain things that I want to see. If the team wins games and makes the playoffs with Sam Darnold or J.J. McCarthy or a combination of both, great. But realistically, the Minnesota Vikings are not going to win a Super Bowl this year. So you could make a case playing a tougher schedule and losing a few more games. And again, you never know who you're going to draft, but your odds are a little bit better when your pick's a little bit higher. You can make the case here that a tough schedule and a few more losses for the Minnesota Vikings is better for J.J. McCarthy's development and the progression of the Minnesota Vikings under him in the long run. So I'm not saying lose games. I'm not saying willingly lose games. I'm not saying throw games. I'm just saying there are benefits to where the Vikings are at right now with a tougher schedule. And if they're 5-12, but your quarterback of the future looks okay when you see him, great, so be it. I'm not going to be so hung up on results this year. I'm not going to be when it comes to wins and losses.
I'm hearing tank from Ross. How about you there?
It's not tank. I'm just saying.
And I'm not into. So here's my thing. I think if they win 7 games or something, it's fine. But I wanted to tank previously for the quarterback. Well, now they've got one.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But this is just all about McCarthy. So if you can develop him, that's fine. The one thing I don't want to see is, and I don't think O'Connell will fall victim to this, I don't want to see them struggle and then play him. It can't be the ponder at halftime with McNabb dirting balls.
And I don't think it will be. I mean,
I agree.
I do believe that, and I think we talked about this previously, that I think when you draft a quarterback 10th overall, it resets the clock for the coach and the GM. I mean, to me, this feels like a starting point for them, even though they've been here 2 years. So I think they have longer runway to handle McCarthy's development the way they want to and not feel pressure like, oh my gosh, we're on the clock here.
Correct.
So I don't think there's any, I would be surprised if there's any kind of organizational pressure from the owners or anything like that, because they know that when you do this is a long-term play. So now I still, if it's a rough year, you're not going to be like, oh, this was a missed opportunity because they had everything in play. I mean, I don't think you're going to say that, but I'm also of the opinion when you have a player like JJ and, Harrison Smith, it could be his final year, and these guys, you want to maximize every year as best you can because the NFL is just so unpredictable that you just never know. So I wouldn't, I still would say, try to make this season as good as you can. And if it's going well, maybe you don't see McCarthy. That's the thing we don't know is like.
Either way. What's funny is if it's going well, you might not see him, and if it's going terrible, you might not see him.
Yeah. And by the way, Chip, I do want to chime in very quickly just to defend my honor a little bit. I do agree with you. Like overall, I want the team to go 12-5 and not 5-12. I'm just saying the schedule is so tough and it's so daunting. And at the end of the day, that's what it is. I don't think you should be as disappointed in a disappointing season this year as you might be in other seasons.
Well, no, because if you have a Kirk Cousins and, a veteran quarterback where there's a, you have to maximize that and win. Well, not saying there's no expectations for McCarthy, but when you're playing a rookie, you just know that it could be, it takes some time. John, I'll go back to your point where you said that you would not put McCarthy in there if it's going poorly. Like, what do you think the ideal circumstance to insert him into the starting role would be?
That you sincerely, as O'Connell and McCowan, think he's ready.
So, regardless of what's happened with the team, record-wise, yeah.
I'm far more concerned about him than I am the team. And if the team is going terrible, though, I ain't thrusting him in because then the perception is, oh, the savior is here. And if things are going great and Darnold's balling out,
Yeah.
but I think
If you're treading water, like if you're saying if you're treading water,
Well,
that might be the best.
and
time
if they're
to-
playing well, and there comes a day where where they feel McCarthy is prepared to play, then I'd be far more likely. I mean, Darnold, unfortunately, is just sort of just a placeholder who deserves the job until
That's what
you
he's-
feel that this guy is set. But it can't be done based on, oh my, Ponder again. Halftime in Chicago was about
Yeah.
week 5. McNabb's a complete mess. Leslie and Rick had very different ideas of who should play QB, and they basically threw Ponder in and said, "Okay, Leslie's guy sucks. Now you play." And and I mean, I think Christian was destined to fail regardless.
Sure.
But Sam Darnold's the poster child, dude. He won 4 games, I believe, as a rookie in 2018. And if he had any ability of being good, they got him off to as bad a start as you possibly could, Chip.
That's it. Yeah. And, Sam Darnold is kind of the test case. This is kind of a thing, was it the environment, circumstances that he was put in? And if he comes here and struggles, then it's like, well, now it's on the quarterback. Because
Yes.
as McCarthy said, a lot of these guys that were getting drafted wanted to come to the Vikings because they felt like that was the best situation in terms of personnel, the head coach being a quarterback, just all the foundations, the stuff they have around him. So, yeah, if the Vikings are struggling, it could be one or two things. Either the quarterback's holding them back, or it's just they're not a very good team, and you can't just dump it all on the quarterback.
Right.
If it's that one, you don't put McCarthy in there because odds are he's going to struggle too. If it's a lot of guys are playing well and you just feel like the quarterback's not playing well or he's holding them back, that's when I think you make the switch. If and only if you feel like he's ready. I mean, I guess you'd never really know, but O'Connell will have a good sense from watching him from day to day to day to day where he's at.
There's also certain pockets here that make sense. Like if
In the schedule?
Yes. November 3rd against the Colts. Now that's at home, and the next 3 games are on the road: Jacksonville, the Titans, and Bears.
Yeah.
But I mean, I could see that December might be the best time if he's prepared to play. Home games, as we've talked about, 3 in a row: Cardinals, Falcons, Bears. So like, there's better. I mean, I hate that start. I'm not exposing him to any of those teams through the Rams.
You're not going to start
hard
him.
Start.
You wouldn't make him have his first start against the Falcons, I don't think.
No. I'd probably go Cardinals before that. No, he would not get his first start against the Falcons.
You would either do it 1 week before or 1 week after.
Well, and that's going to be a great game, Chipper, because that's McCarthy against Penix then.
Yeah.
If Kirk's Achilles goes fooey, like a kaboom.
Or they make it just a quarterback change. We're going young.
Well, I mean, hell, they drafted him at 8 overall. At some point,
I know.
But I do think, like, the earliest, if I felt McCarthy, like, let's say around week 7, which is the Lions game, that I feel McCarthy is showing something, the earliest I would put him in is the 3rd of November against the Colts. Because, again, to me, Lions-Rams is tough. Lions-Rams with 3 days off is not doable to me.
Do you like Packers early again? They were early again last year too, right? Was that?
Yep, they've been at Green Bay early, I think, the last 2 years, and they played late. I'm fine with that. I actually, from a weather standpoint, this is a great schedule.
Yeah, because they're not. Let's see, at the end they're
at
home.
Seattle.
At Seattle, that shouldn't be bad.
And
they're last November 24th at the Bears.
Yep, and that's it.
Last outdoors one, Seahawks, but I don't think December 20. It could be cold there.
5 of your last 6 are indoors.
Yeah,
which again is pretty friendly for a young quarterback if you're playing him by then.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to. You remove the elements part of it too. So, yeah, it's. I will say it's one of the more unique schedules that I can remember, Judd.
Yes.
In total. Giving up the home game and then the 3-3 and home and away, and then starting out with those 3 teams, the 3 playoff teams.
If I felt my team was competitive, like a good team, I would hate this. Like I would absolutely hate how it falls, not the actual opponents. And just to go old school, the strength of schedule. So, that of course in the second half of the season does not count because teams go up and down.
That's it. You don't know. Yeah.
It's tied for 16th. So the strength of schedule, that formula actually does not make this incredibly difficult as far as opponents go because the back end has some bad teams.
Sure.
But I think the
way it's laid out does.
Yes, exactly. I think the way it's laid out makes your life, or could have made your life, extremely difficult if you thought that you could win the division.
I think you could, the pessimist would look at it as like, this, I don't like having 3 straight road games. And you may disagree with this, but you also may say, man, if we kind of survive that and we got 3 at home and you have that advantage.
Yeah.
Now, they weren't a good home team last year, obviously. So you have to
2 wins.
You have
right?
to take it. Yeah. I mean, it was their worst one since one of Bud's years, right? So you got to, get back the home field advantage that you didn't have last year, which is strange because that place is so loud and, that's always you felt like there'd be an advantage of them. So, but if they can return to being a good home team,
Mhm.
now all of a sudden you're like, all right, the back end, I do like, Packers Lions at the end. That's always fun,
Mhm.
So yeah, but I agree that I don't know that any coach is ever going to, as much as you like keeping them from getting complacent or in a, monotonous with having 3 straight of anything. I still don't think any coach would complain about having 3 straight home games.
Yeah, Ross.
In the past, gentlemen, the NFC South has been a rather boring division to maybe play, not the sexiest of teams. But when you look at the NFC South now, the Vikings-Texans game early on could be really fun, assuming that they're healthy. Then you have Anthony Richardson. Again, you hope that he's healthy when the Vikings play the Colts. Will Levis, maybe one that the Vikings had interest or some interest, maybe no interest. That's interesting. And, of course, Trevor Lawrence. It's kind of fun to see the South on the schedule now as opposed to previous years. And by the way, most of those games are winnable too. I'm not saying you're going to win them all, but 3 of the 4 you could easily win.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Texans obviously that's
the toughest,
even though you have it at home. But you're seeing the blueprint of a team that played a rookie right away and invested in it. So that's I don't think the Vikings are going to be in that boat, but and Daniil Hunter, you get to see some storylines there.
Diggsy?
Yeah, Diggs. Yeah,
that's right.
I totally forgot about Diggs. Oh my gosh,
me too.
Jaguars are tougher too, though, because
it's at Jaguars and
Trevor Lawrence dropped off with a high ankle sprain, which most people. But if you go back before he suffered that, he was playing pretty good. I actually think the Jaguars are a decent team. They're not a bad.
I do
team.
too, and he's a good quarterback, and I think that one's tougher than what you anticipate.
Here's the thing, though, that you can officially dub U.S. Bank South. That will be half filled with Minnesota Vikings fans, as it has been historically in the past. So that could be fun too.
Well, I think this has kind of become I don't know if it's a new phenomenon. We were talking about this in our office the other day. Like
Vikings fans travel well,
but everybody does in the NFL.
Yeah,
when did that become a thing, Judd? When did it become like?
After
you go to all these venues and you see it on TV, whether it's Vikings, Pittsburgh, Dallas, Packers, whoever, I don't care who it is. Their fans travel, and it's almost become the summer vacation for fans in the fall. That instead of taking, or maybe they do both, but it's become a thing, right? Like travel to these venues, and I don't know if it's been 5 years, 10 years. I just noticed it more. Maybe I'm just paying attention more now.
No. You're right. Because when I covered the Packers in 2003 and 4, Packer fans traveled. Like you would get on a plane on a Friday or a Saturday to go to a game, and it would reek of booze, and there'd be Packer jerseys and stuff. The Vikings, when I started on the beat with Seifert in 2005, they had some, but they did not travel well. The other team I saw that actually traveled incredibly well was Pittsburgh. But Vikings fans started to travel like as well as they do now. Sometime after we got off the beat, it was I would guess it was Zimmer, that type of around 14 or so. And you're right. Now it's a free for all.
It's every team. And someone floated this idea to me, and it makes sense, Judd, that they think the reason is because of how convenient it is to buy tickets for road teams now with the secondary market versus having to fly somewhere and like, oh, I want to scout tickets. Well, you don't know if you're getting tickets, right? You're not going to book a plane ticket if you have to go scout. But now you can go on these secondary things, buy your tickets. You're like, all right, I'm guaranteed to getting in, so let's just make a trip of it. I think this probably has something to do with it.
I like it. And plus you've got, to Ross's point, Jacksonville, the Rams and Chargers, SoFi is just basically open for business.
It's all, yeah.
And it's a great trip. So, that's fine. But yeah,
Arizona's always been a good
Las
one
Vegas,
for people to
Las
travel
Vegas
to.
is the one. I mean, obviously the Raiders.
But Vikings fans are, they've gone from, you always saw a smattering of purple to, oh my God, there's Skull Chants, which by the way, also did not exist until US Bank Stadium opened.
That's right. And you feel like you go to some of these, whether it's, the Raiders game, LA, anything South, obviously. Sometimes it feels like it's 60% Vikings fans in there.
Oh, that chart. Do you remember that Chargers game in SoFi? That was all Vikings fans.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
But
so it's become I've been thinking about this the last couple of years. When you go to these games, you're like, man, I just do not remember this many fans traveling when we were on the beat.
They didn't. I also wonder too if it's weird, to go back to your point about the Vikings subpar home record last season. The one thing I will say is US Bank Stadium is loud, but do you ever get the feeling that the crowd from the Metrodome has changed? The Metrodome it was expensive, but it wasn't. I feel like now you do have some fans who have been priced out there. And so it's loud in there, but it doesn't, at least personally to me, it never has the same feeling that the Dome did, which was much more of a hardcore, blue collar, a lot of people sauced crowd. There's drunk people, but I don't feel like it's the same.
I feel like it's loud, but I don't know if it's Metrodome loud, but it feels like it's not that far up. But think about the last year or last couple of years when Chiefs come in here, when Pittsburgh comes in here, Packers
fans.
There's, and I wonder too if people buy tickets as a moneymaker for them because they know they can resell them to fans that are always to traveling, because it's become such a phenomenon, such a thing to do in the NFL that fans say, hey, I can actually make some money here if if I'm out of town or I can't go or the team's not doing well and I don't want to go. I know I'm going to be able to sell them. So I think in years past we've seen, in the same way that we've seen Vikings fans travel, these other teams are traveling too, and they're buying tickets. And I think it's just more acceptable to sell your tickets now than it was ever before.
Oh, the Chiefs fans here for the game.
Oh, it's crazy.
Last year was incredible. I mean, I was taking pictures. Just seas of red. San Francisco had a ton of fans here. Green Bay always does.
Always does.
Exactly right. And I do know that for a long time, the cliche was for Vikings season ticket holders to sell their Packer tickets and basically make up the entire season based on that. Now, I know there's a lot of shaming that goes with that now because people got sick of Packer fans invading the Dome at one point and now US Bank Stadium.
Yeah.
Hey, last thing for you. I've been thinking about this of late, and I don't think I broached this with you the last time we talked, so forgive me if I did. Justin Jefferson skipped OTAs, not the mandatory minicamp, but he skipped OTAs last year. He said, I was busy. We all said, and you don't have a new contract yet. Yeah. And you can't be fined because the OTAs are all optional. I've been thinking about this now, but with Darnold here, and he's going to play almost certainly, and probably more importantly, McCarthy here developing. What do you think the importance of getting Jefferson here? Not because he doesn't know things, but to actually, because when it was Kirk, he had worked with Kirk.
Yeah.
The
importance for
Jefferson to be here for like OTAs as well, not show up because he has to, but show up because it'd be productive for him and the quarterbacks, especially McCarthy, to get working with him as soon as possible.
Are you saying important that they get this deal done so he can be here? Or
yes.
I think it's important that he gets, work with quarterbacks he's never worked with. But if I'm him, I'm not showing up unless I get my contract done. And so
I agree with that.
I don't think it's because his cousin. I mean, when his cousin's here, it's like, okay, they know each other. They know how Kirk knows how he operates, comes out of breaks. And so these guys have never played with JJ. They never practiced with him. So they don't know. So anytime you can get those kind of reps. And I do think sometimes, we're out there and like, how important really is this? Well, I think when it's quarterback and receiver, I think it is important because you just learn how they do things, how Justin sets guys up, how he comes out of breaks. I mean, that part I think is important, but I keep, it's not like I'm checking my watch every day, but it's like, what are we waiting on here? Like, we've been talking about this for a year and a half almost. So no one's made it a big deal. No one's, we haven't seen the rhetoric get dialed up. It hasn't become acrimonious publicly. I don't know what it's like behind the scenes, but I would think they would want this done obviously as soon as possible, but definitely before the mandatory minicamp. So he's here because, is he going to skip that mandatory minicamp if it's not done?
I mean, who knows?
I don't know.
But I just think that there's far more incentive to get it done now than there was a year ago at this time when it could have got done. But if it didn't, and he didn't show for certain things, the fact that if they don't have it done by training camp, I think almost certainly means he does not show, becomes a much bigger deal. But that's a different discussion. I'm just saying, as far as the work that can be gleaned between Darnold and McCarthy and Jeff.
I think that's very important. I think it's very important. Yeah, because they have to develop some chemistry here. I mean, this is Jefferson obviously had it with Kirk, and now he's got to start over with two guys and develop it. And so it's the more work they can get done together, the better. And so that's why there should be urgency anyways from the front office to get this done.
It feels like they want to get
off
it
their plate.
It's very odd. The whole thing's odd because we don't know. Like, is it guaranteed money? I saw a report now that it might take until training camp. If you're going to pay him and you got to guarantee some, okay, but I mean, you got to get him in.
Yeah. I mean, we know that deadlines and things like that tends to get things done, but you hope it just so that big question mark goes away and they can just focus on developing the chemistry.
All right, Chipper. Great stuff as always.
All right, boys.
Appreciate the time. Chip Scoggins, Ross Brendel. I'm Judd. See you later on Purple Axis.